Dion, Dion, Dion Dublin. What have you done? This is the Arsenal Transfer Show. Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys and girls for another episode of what is the Arsenal Transfer Show, joining you every single morning at 8 a.m. UK time. Thank you as always for joining me and making this a part, as always, of your morning routines. I hope you're doing good. I hope you're doing well. Thank you as always for tuning in. It is incredibly appreciated. I hope you had a fantastic week so far. I know it's only Tuesday, but I hope that Monday was frivolous for you and prosperous for you in many, many ways. And yeah, I'm looking forward as this build up to Christmas keeps going. Oh, I've not had my Advent. I was thinking about doing this thing where I do like the Advent calendar on stream in a latte firm kind of snack check situation. I might, in the break, run downstairs and grab it. That's going to require me being able to get downstairs and get back up in 12 seconds, which is how long the mid credit is. But maybe we can do it. If you let me know if you want me to do that for part 2, maybe we will. But an Advent calendar is an absolute must during the festive period. So let us know what you got in yours this morning in the comment section down below. But moving to Arsenal, good morning to those in the chat box: Peekahoo, Paul, Olawale, Amira, Martin, Rob, James, Grantley Poos, Errol, Amesy, Mubarak, Matt G, Damien, Glenn, Jose, Arasilki, Carlton, Stephen, Rowan, and Maximius, Tom, Paul, Rich. We've got Stevie, we've got Mr. Ree, Red Star, Alex, and plenty more of you guys and girls in the chat box as well. Really appreciate your time and your presence being here as well. Owen says, I've seen your Strava, mate. No chance. Cheeky little boy. Goodness me. Hey, I went to the gym yesterday. First time I've been back to the gym in a while. Yeah, I'm just it's kind of starting the New Year's resolution early. So got into the gym, wore the athletic shirt, the athletic club, or as mispronounced Athletic Bilbao shirt from the other day. Did you know that I had someone leave a message saying, I can't believe this guy's hosting an Arsenal show wearing a different club, which, I'm not, well, I am a petty man, but the pettiness inside me basically wanted to then host every single show like going forwards, not wearing an Arsenal shirt and wearing a different club's shirt from my collection. I was tempted to do that, like a festive football shirt advent calendar, if you will. Maybe we could do that from tomorrow. Let us know in the comment section if you'd like to see that. But I was like, really? Is this the point of the show that you want to leave a comment about the fact I was wearing a La Liga shirt? It did make me laugh. Anyway, let's jump to today's stories, shall we? I start with a slide that I saw actually on social media yesterday, and I wanted to kind of get some of your thoughts and feelings about this, because I think it's quite the impressive statistic, which I've captioned on this slide saying, but yeah, let's sack him, because these are the days since any Big Six team last beat Arsenal in the Premier League. For Man United, who Arsenal will be playing tomorrow, and of course in the FA Cup, which we'll talk about shortly, 822 days since they lost to Man United in the league, 611 days since they've lost to Spurs, 1,196 days since they lost to Chelsea in the league, 922 days since they lost to Liverpool in the league, and 586 days since Arsenal lost to Manchester City in the league. Considering that Arsenal's previous kind of reputation was our record against Big Six teams was dreadful, it goes to show you the progression that Arsenal have made in these last few seasons, and like how we've changed kind of the feeling around around kind of how Arsenal are, and just this rhetoric of Arsenal against Big Six sides. But Arsenal playing Manchester United in the league tomorrow. Hopefully we can extend that run to 824, I think it will be, by that point as well. So yeah, very impressive record. I thought I'd bring up. Touch wood, it doesn't end tomorrow. Fabio Vieira scored once again, now scoring in back-to-back games for Porto. They won 2-0 against Casapia in Liga Portugal. He scored the first goal in the 51st minute with Samu Agahoa scoring in the 55th minute to give Porto a 2-0 win. And of course, as they try and chase down league leading Sporting, who Arsenal battered in the Champions League last week. They're 3 points behind Sporting in the league at the moment. But an impressive result, I think, that we've seen Porto kind of stay on the heels, if you will, of Sporting. But actually, their last result on Saturday was a 1-0 defeat to Santa Clara at home. It seems that Arsenal win over Sporting has had something of it's had a knock-on effect, because they've just suffered their first defeat of the season in back-to-back games. Arsenal rocking the boats. Ruben Amorim exiting as well, of course, changing things quite considerably with Sporting, and it'll be interesting to see how they recover from that situation. Fluminense will not exercise their purchase clause for Marquinhos. The forgotten Arsenal Brazilian winger will be returning to Arsenal this January, where there is, according to Brazilian reports, an expectation that he will be found a new club in this winter window. Where that is, where he ends up going, we will have to wait and see. But Marquinhos is set to return to Arsenal, and will be in a position to I don't think it'll be to work his way back into an Arsenal side of any shape or form, maybe even in the under-21s, but he will, of course, be at some point moving on. I mean, how old is Marquinhos now? He is 21. He turns 22 in April, so he's still valid to play for the under-21s. But yeah, it's just not worked out for Marquinhos, and it's just one of those youngsters that Arsenal sign. We've seen it before. We've seen it loads of times in the past. Players, remember Wellington Silva? Rings a bell. Similar to that, I think, in that case. But the big news of yesterday was, of course, the FA Cup draw for the third round. Arsenal getting perhaps the toughest, definitely the toughest of any of the big six sides draws, because they're facing yet another one of the big six teams. This record that Arsenal have in either the third or fourth round of the FA Cup in the draw is getting crazy. Like, we've played Liverpool, we've played Manchester City. Like, our records, I think we've played Spurs, I think, recently in the last few years as well. Our record of getting the big sides early on in the FA Cup is, as Cass says, it's cursed. Somehow we keep getting these draws. Now, it's not every year, because, of course, Arsenal did get Oxford. People forget that Man City wasn't a third round tie. It was a fourth round tie, having beaten Oxford in the third round to get Manchester City. But it does seem in these third or fourth round of the competition, we just can't get any kind of luck. In terms of when the game is going to be played, it's expected to be played in the weekend of the 11th and 12th of January. We don't know when of the 2 days as of yet. Of course, it'll probably be on TV, meaning they'll probably change the day. Maybe it'll be on the Sunday. It could yet be on the Saturday. So we'll wait and let you know when indeed we have some scheduling for this game. But to run you through the draw in its entirety, Southampton host Swansea, Arsenal play Manchester United, Exeter facing Oxford, Leyton Orient playing Derby County, Reading against Burnley, Aston Villa against West Ham, that's an all Premier League tie, Norwich City against Brighton, Manchester City host Salford City, of course the team owned by a conglomerate of Manchester United former players. Millwall face Dagenham and Redbridge. Liverpool playing Accrington Stanley. Those that are, long-term English football fans should know the significance of that clash. Bristol City against Wolves. Preston North End host Charlton. I was kind of hoping for a Charlton clash. That would have been nice. Chelsea play Morecambe, a game I think we've actually seen in a draw in the last decade, if my memory serves me well. Middlesbrough play Blackburn. Bournemouth play West Brom. Mansfield Town host Wigan. Wycombe play Portsmouth. Birmingham City against Lincoln City. Leeds United against Harrogate Town. Nottingham Forest play Luton. Sheffield United play Cardiff City. Ipswich Town playing Bristol Rovers. Fulham host Watford. Crystal Palace play Stockport County. Tamworth are at home to Spurs. Let's hope that that can be a FA Cup upset of fantastical proportions. Hull City play Doncaster Rovers. Sunderland host Stoke City. Leicester City have the visit of QPR. Brentford are at home to Wayne Rooney's Plymouth Argyle. Coventry City host Sheffield Wednesday. Newcastle United are at home to South London side Bromley. I believe that might be, I'll just double check this. Carl Jenkinson currently plays for Bromley, and so Carl Jenkinson will be in this game, if indeed he is in any way involved in the game. But 32 years of age, Carl Jenkinson's Bromley will be travelling to St James's Park. So that's quite a nice one. And the last one, Everton against Peterborough United. So that's the full draw for the FA Cup third round. People say that, it's a bad draw for Arsenal, and I get that, but it's also an opportunity to knock out one of the potential contenders for the tournament, the current holders of the tournament as well, of course. So, yeah, I think it's a really good opportunity to end that run. So, yeah, I think it's a great opportunity there. I did love Dion Dublin, by the way, reaction to the draw. That's why I ended the show with that at the start. But if you haven't watched the draw and the reaction of Dion Dublin, it's great. I really like Dion Dublin. I know he's not everyone's cup of tea, but I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of Dion Dublin. Mikel Arteta press conference is, of course, today. He will be facing the media to give an insight into the latest team news. Of course, we need to know updates on Calafiori. We need to know updates on Gabriel, of course, as well. And we need to find out the latest on a number of other players and kind of their situation. The press conference is this afternoon, which does mean that there shouldn't be another training session. So let's see if Arteta uses the old adage of we've got another session, because I don't know if there is a session in the afternoon. It usually is in the morning, and it is Tuesday, which means the game's tomorrow. So yeah, we said we were going to look out for those type of things. So let's wait and see if indeed that does turn out to be the case. But Mikel Arteta expects to face the media there, and looking forward to seeing that. I won't be there because guess where I'm going to be today? No, it's not where you think. For some of you, maybe it's arguably worse. I'm going to be at Enzo Maresca's press conference this morning. Our Chelsea writer unable to make it today, so I'm covering for him at Cobham. So I'll be hearing from Enzo Maresca ahead of Chelsea's game, of course, this week. Premier League action gets underway today. Ipswich hosting Crystal Palace, Leicester hosting West Ham United. It's a week of games on Amazon Prime. Then tomorrow at 7:30, Everton against Wolves. Man City play Nottingham Forest. That's obviously a game that Nottingham Forest will be looking to try and extend that horrible run of Pep Guardiola's side. Newcastle against Liverpool. That's one of those games where you look at and go, could Liverpool drop points? That maybe is where it could happen, but they did just lose at home to West Ham. So maybe not too many hopes for that. Southampton played Chelsea, another game that, of course, could see Chelsea rise above Arsenal. It's also worth pointing out there's been a little bit of a mistake. You've probably heard that Chelsea are only behind Arsenal on alphabetical order. This, I am reliably told, is not true. Chelsea are actually behind Arsenal on away goals scored, not alphabetical order. So that's why they are currently behind Arsenal. Arsenal hosting Manchester United. Of course, as we know, I'll be there at the Emirates tomorrow evening, and an 8:15 kickoff. Hate those kickoff times. Ridiculous for fans trying to travel. Ridiculous for people who have to stay longer behind full time. Definitely not taking that personally. Aston Villa hosting Brentford. And then on Thursday, Fulham play Brighton, and Bournemouth host Spurs in a very challenging game for Ange Postecoglou and Arsenal's North London rivals. Right, that's all of the roundup of today's story. So let's go to part 2 and your questions. And I'm going to try and attempt to run downstairs. It's a longer trip than it was in the old place. So let's see if we can do it. All right, are we ready? We're going to go for it right after this. Coming. Hold on. I definitely didn't do that in time. Right, we're here. Okay, let me put these headphones on. Burn a few calories. Oh, no. I'll tell you what I've done. As I've grabbed it, I've thumbed in the number 4. Dearie me. Okay, right. What day is it? It's the third. Okay, well, it's only number 4, so it's not too bad. Number 3. I could never find these things. Number 3. This was gifted to me, by the way. I didn't go out and buy this myself. Do you do that? Are you supposed to do that? Should you buy advent calendars for yourself? I'm sure it's... Oh, what is that? Got a dairy milk egg. I think it's an egg. Some kind of egg. So, yeah. Happy days. I got given this, but it's got a whole nut in it. Does anyone like whole nut? AP says low, out of breath. I sprinted up those stairs, mate. Of course I'm out of breath. Of course I'm out of breath. Yeah, does anyone like whole nut? I hate chocolate with nuts in. It's just not. And I like nuts. Like peanuts are, sweet chili peanuts are great, but chocolate with nuts, I'm just not a fan. Says Mikey, is that breakfast? It might have to be because December full of chocolate every morning. It's just trying to hold back on the calories. It's not worth it. Amy says, work it out, Tom, as it will save me looking for it on mine. No, I don't like the whole nut ones. Indeed, it's not the best. Not the best. Jordan says, though, it's the best. And Rich says fruit and nut is even better. What is wrong with you people? Chocolate and nuts, it's just not for me. It's just not for me. It's like, I love Christmas pudding, but every Christmas my dad makes the best Christmas pudding, but he puts nuts in it, and I have to kind of like pick the nuts out because it's just some things I like. I like nuts on their own, but put them in something else, and yeah, it's not for me. It's not for me. Right, let's go into the chat box, shall we, and tackle some of your questions for the next 15 minutes. I've got to get on the road soon, so do forgive me for not taking on too many. Ashley says, should we fast-track signings to early January? Checking out our fixtures from Brentford on January to Villa on January 18th. If we go through the 8th of Jan is a first leg semi-final, maybe against Liverpool, Spurs, Man United, and Newcastle every 3 days. Yeah, January's looking very tough. If Arsenal progress past Crystal Palace in the League Cup quarter final, we could have a January which starts with an away trip to Brentford, then with a Saturday game 3 days later away to Brighton. We then may have a League Cup semi-final game after that against one of those potential teams. Then on the Saturday or Sunday, we'll have Man United in the FA Cup. Then the Wednesday, we'll have Spurs at the Emirates. And then the Saturday, which is just, again, 3 days later, we host Aston Villa before then 4 days after that, having a Champions League game at home to Dinamo Zagreb, which could help really solidify Arsenal's place in the top 8. And then 3 days after that, or 4 days after, no, 3 days after that, we go away to Wolves. Before then, 4 days after that, going away to Barcelona and playing Girona. And then it doesn't stop because then 4 days after, just 3 or 4 days after that, we host Manchester City at the Emirates before finally getting maybe a better draw in the FA Cup if we break through to the next round past Man United. So January is looking all of a sudden very, 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 very difficult, very challenging, very tough. So yeah, that's going to be one that we need to be really, really cautious of. So in terms of signings, I've said this before, that we want to wait and see what we got to do, and ultimately I think we have no excuses when it comes to spending money. I think we should be spending money. There's not unlimited funds, there's not loads of money to spend, but there is some money to spend, and I think Arsenal have to go into the market and do so. Jamie says, first time I've managed to catch a live show in a while, but always listen on catch up. The Calafiori being slow segment on the other day really annoyed me. Didn't he break the Arsenal 40-meter sprint record? I don't know. Did he? If he did, that's brilliant. Let me try and find it. Sprint record. Let's have a look. Calafiori. Yes, here we go. This is brilliant. Thank you so much, Jamie, for bringing this up. This is great. 4 months ago, it was reported that Calafiori set a new record at the Arsenal Shobarulti Training Centre for the aerobic lung capacity, the 40-meter sprint. He has also tied Gabriel Magalhaes and William Saliga's leg press and chest press at the maximum setting as well. So he set new records for the aerobic lung capacity and for the 40-meter sprint, and he has tied Gabriel and Saliba's leg press and chest press maximum setting in the summer. But Calafiori's slow. So, absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Thank you, Jamie, for bringing that to my attention. That's excellent. Dan says, should we begin to match Anfield's atmosphere at the Emirates to help give the players that extra push? I feel as if Anfield's atmosphere this season is overlooked at what's helping carry them. Look, I've been to the Anfield, and I have to say that, You'll Never Walk Alone is a very emotive song at the beginning of them. if you've ever been and or just even watched a Liverpool game when they're not playing one of the big six teams, it's very similar to the Emirates. And I would argue that when Arsenal play against big six sides or play Liverpool or play City, our atmosphere is also very, very good. The fans really get up for those games. It's against the other teams that I think both Anfield and the Emirates atmosphere kind of dips, and there's an element of entitlement and expectation. So, yeah. Ken says pure entertainment, the advent calendar run. Well, I think I'm going to have to keep it up here because I can't afford doing a run every single morning down to get the advent calendar. Otherwise, I'm going to slip one day. And I reckon there's some sadistic people in the chat that are hoping. Look at this from Fred. I was hoping that Tom stubbed his toe. I'm very mean, I know. Fred, come on, man. What's that about? You sadistic little man. Satoki says, if you were at Arsenal's press conference, not Chelsea's, what would you ask Arteta? Good question. What would I ask Arteta? Of course, there is a build-up to the transfer window, so I think there's an element maybe of asking something about the... It's very hard to ask Arteta about transfers, as we know. If you ask about a specific player, he doesn't answer. I think I'd approach the question in a more general way. You'd be saying, is there a desire to strengthen the side in January? And have you identified perhaps areas that are in need of strengthening? So I think you'd have to be quite broad in how you ask the transfer question, but I'd probably go down a route something like that. And of course, with this really difficult run in January and after the draw of Man United, you could potentially ask him now about, is the need in January to sign players perhaps greater now based upon what the January period could look like, and of course the schedule moving forwards with players like Tomiyasu and Ben White having been injured. You could also ask about, has Ben White's injury left something of a greater need, or has it changed plans in any way? So those are the types of things, if you want to go down the transfer route, that you could probably ask about at the moment. So yeah, I think that's probably a good one. And you could also ask about, I think, the reliance maybe on Martin Odegaard, because Martin Odegaard's return has coincided with Arsenal's form really turning around. And I think there's been a few question marks about, is Arsenal too reliant on a player like that returning and completely changing the club's fortunes? Or is there something that he wishes he could have done differently or better during that time to help us cope without the skipper's presence? So maybe something like that. Maximia says Ashley Young at 39 potentially playing his 18-year-old son in the FA Cup clash. Isn't that crazy? Will be interesting if Young induces a foul of the other. That would be very great indeed. Amira says, speaking of Calafiori, I saw a tweet pointing out that he's younger than Saka. I kind of knew that, but it was still a little shocked when you think of the criticism that he's gotten in his first few months. It's a really good point, Amira. It kind of brings things into perspective, I think, for people, doesn't it? Circus says, nice answer, Tom. Long-time follower from Japan. Thank you so much for listening. And we're sincerely hoping that your compatriot Takehiro Tomiyasu returns to the squad very, very soon. John says, have we left it late in updating our central midfield, wingers and strikers, considering Pep is now saying he needs a rebuild and needs players in the same position? It's not about leaving things too late. We've done what we can do. We've done what is able to be done. There's not much more Arsenal could really have done in their last few transfer windows that we haven't already done. We've built a squad that's managed to rise itself to where we find ourselves now. We're creating numbers like you saw in the slide that I put up earlier on. We've got a squad that's capable of this, of going more than 1,000 days without losing to Chelsea in the league, nearly 1,000 days without losing to Liverpool in the league, nearly 1,000 days without losing to Manchester United in the league, more than 500 days without losing to Man City. Like, that's the squad that we've built to be able to do things like that. So have we left it late? No, we're just doing as much as we can. And in the summer, we identified the fact that it was a window that wasn't necessarily forthcoming with obvious quality options to take us forward. And that's why you didn't really see Man City do too well in the market. And that's why you didn't see Liverpool do too much in the market, because there wasn't really the priority options for these elite level clubs. But Arsenal still signed 2 players that were designed to uplift their left-hand side. And sadly, Calafiori's had injury issues, and Mikel Arteta, we know as well, has had significant injury issues that also meant he missed pre-season too. So, yeah, I don't think it's a case of have we left it late. We're just doing the business as and when we can, and the next opportunity to do that, of course, is very, very soon. The Walking Man says, people forgetting that we have lost points this season that really was not our fault. Or rather were really our fault, or weren't. You'll have to clarify that, Walking Man. If it's were our fault, yes, there are. Newcastle, without a doubt. Bournemouth, in the first 30 minutes, the question marks about that performance weren't great. But obviously, I think that we went on to lose that game more so out of our control. But Newcastle was obviously a game that we lost all of our own doing, and it was very, very frustrating. The Liverpool game, I think we deserved more from that. The Chelsea game, I think, again, we deserved more from that than we got. But ultimately, we have seen points dropped because of things completely out of our control that have been frankly ludicrous this season, which is very frustrating indeed. Trevor says you could say to Arteta that you are the missing link. I'm definitely not that way inclined, Trevor, to put myself in that position. That would be incredibly arrogant. Cardi says, looking at those stats with the big 16s, why do you think our faults seem to be with the mid-table / lower league opposition sides? It's something that Arsenal, of course, had last season. We know that we dropped points against West Ham. We dropped them against Fulham, home and away. 5 points were dropped that season against that Fulham side. Very, very frustrating indeed. So I think that obviously the teams that we've dropped points against this season, Bournemouth have been very good this year. They've already beaten Man City, as we know. I think they've beaten Tottenham, or they're about to face Tottenham, sorry. So we'll get a better idea about how they are against them this midweek as well. But they're a very good side, but we obviously went down to 10 men very early on in that game, and it really cost us losing Saliba, not only for that game, but for the Liverpool game as well. The Newcastle aren't like a lower league opposition. You'd argue a lower table opposition. You would argue maybe they're a bit mid-table this year, but still they're a side that have competed for those European places. And then outside of that, I mean, who else have we dropped points to? Who you would say are kind of lower down? I mean, Brighton, but again, Brighton are currently fifth in the league right now. We drew at home to them, and we definitely should have won again, going down to 10 men because of controversial circumstances. But they're the only games that we've dropped points in. Bournemouth, Manchester City away again, which we should have won. Liverpool at home, which we should have won. Newcastle away, we definitely deserve to lose. Chelsea away, that we should have won. It's like when you actually look at the season as more of kind of, and you go into kind of these results, the games that we lost, only Newcastle, I look at and go, yeah, we didn't deserve to win that game. But I think that the Bournemouth game, we didn't deserve to win it, but we know why we didn't. And every other game, I think you can have a really strong argument to suggest that we deserve to win them. Man City away, Liverpool at home, Chelsea away. I think Arsenal deserve to win those games. Sorry, mate. And as I've pointed out before, if Arsenal win against Man United tomorrow, which is obviously a really good opportunity to make something of a statement in this run of form that we've built ourselves back to, and go on a run towards the end of the year, we could be in a really good position points-wise in comparison to last year again as well, and showing the progress is still being made as well. Dan says, I mean, if we had beaten Liverpool and beaten City, this whole season would look very different right now, but it's still very early on. I mean, if you we're 9 points behind Liverpool right now. So you take 2 points off of them, that goes down to 7. You add 2 points on to us, that go down to 5. If we'd have beaten Manchester City, we'd have 2 more. We'd only be 3 points behind. 2 games is the difference between a 9-point gap and a 3-point gap. And both of those games, Arsenal deserve to win, and it's incredibly frustrating that we didn't. So, yeah, I understand this. Greenland with the if. It's all well and good, Greenland. I did offer you the opportunity, of course, to come on the show yesterday. You balked at that. But I get it. I understand. Cardi says, looking at the stats of the big 16s, I think we covered that. Trevor says, you could say to Arteta, the missing link, we haven't done that. Amira says, speaking of Calafiori, we talked about the age as well already. Where are the ones that I missed from earlier on? Daniel says, it's a crazy stat about Ashley Young playing his son. Imagine going on a sliding tackle for that. I know, it's very true, isn't it? Really, really crazy is that one. Carl says, tomorrow, Tom, you should try for a personal best and get that route cleared down to the advent calendar. Stephen says, hello, Tom. Wasn't there news about Kivior breaking the 40-meter record after joining as well? Maybe it's PR. Stephen, I think you're a little bit, superstitious. If Jakob Kivior beat the record, he beat the record. He's also not a slow player, is Kivior. It's worth pointing out. He's just not as fast as Leroy Sané. It's worth pointing out. Raf says, how do you think Edu leaving will impact the window? Do you think that we will try and find a new technical director or sporting director quickly so they can plan? We're in a bit of a weird position. If you listen to David Ornstein's comments on the Athletic podcast, he's already explained, and I think he did it in very good detail, that he doesn't think that the January window will be too affected by Edu not being there. A lot of the planning for that window apparently would have already taken place prior to Edu's decision to leave. We've had Jason Ato, of course, has been working very closely with Edu, step into that role on an interim basis. So it's not as if nobody is doing that job. Jason Ato and his team is currently using that position right now and is working behind the scenes with the scouts and the other head of recruitments and other people like Richard Garlick, of course, as the managing director. So there's lots of work still there. There are people behind the scenes. I don't think we'll see a news director come in before January. It may be decided that there is going to be an appointment, but I don't think you'll see somebody come in before January at all. I think it'd be very surprising if that happened. Trevor says, why does it happen that my local team has that problem against lower teams? They gave the team at the bottom where their first win. I think maybe it's something about kind of a false sense of security, maybe an arrogance, maybe those other teams kind of step up their game and they think they've got nothing to lose against those bigger sides. They play slightly with more freedom. So there's definitely like a psychological element to it that I think means that we get it. And it's sport. Sport means that you're not entitled, as we talked a lot yesterday, you're not expected to win or entitled to win every single game, because that's not what sport's about. It'd be pretty darn boring if you were entitled to win every single game, because that's not what sport is. Luke says, do you think there's any way for Kieran Tierney to work his way back into the squad, or will we see him moved on soon? I think there's a chance we may see him get some minutes, but I think it would be very surprising if he kind of established himself back in the starting 11. I really wouldn't expect that. John says, Tom, I think we need to know what the 40-meter record is to be able to judge if they are fast or not, as our record may be slower than other teams. I mean, you think about the players that have been here, John, Hector Bellerin, Theo Walcott, I think we know that the 40-meter record is still going to be very quick. The idea that there's any kind of argument to suggest that Calafiori is still slow, despite the fact that he's now got the record for the 40-meter sprint, I think it's a real stretch. It's a real stretch. Josiah said KT is basically being placed in the shot room window, maybe by returning as well. Maybe there's an element of that, but if he wouldn't be in the squad if he wasn't fit. That is definitely the case. Rob says, I heard that Calafiori is tied with the Gooner Talk for sprints up the stairs with a chocolate advent calendar. Well, I don't know if he's that fast, Rob. He might be a little bit quick. I'm not sure he's quite there, though. So, yeah, we'll wait and see that. Anyway, that brings us to the end of today's show. Thank you so much, as always, for tuning in. It is very much appreciated. I'm going to be joined by Garrett a little bit later on. Apologies, Garrett. I just realized I was just seen your message in the Discord server. We're going to be joined by Garrett at 5 p.m. UK time today for a preview of the Manchester United team. And I look forward to hearing and seeing the team that we're going to both be going for. So make sure you tune in for that, 5 p.m. UK time today. And then, of course, I'll be back with you tomorrow morning, bright and early at 8 a.m. for a roundup of all the news from today and Mikel Arteta's press conference ahead of that match against Manchester United before heading off to the Emirates to attend the game myself. So it's going to be a really interesting one. I'm looking forward to hearing all the build up to it and more. Thank you so much for listening. Please do drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you're new around here with those notifications turned on so you never miss a show. Have a fantastic day. Stay safe, stay well, stay happy and respectful. And as always, up the Arsenal.